Hello there everyone, and welcome to this little video right here that I am doing right now to show you a couple of things that have come in the mail today. I have gotten the Thomas & Friends Wood Rosie. This is the 2019 version where it's fully painted, and I'll get more into that in a bit. And I also happen to have a Thomas Wood Rebecca, which is a character that I've been waiting for a release for some time, because every time I searched on eBay for this character, I was not able to find her, but I was finally able to find a seller that had this, and well, here she is. And I also got some Thomas & Friends Wood adapter track right here, and I will open these up right now and take a closer look at, each of these, and then go into a little more detail in regards to, these characters and the whole Thomas Wood line in general. Okay, so that's both of them out of the packaging. And now, to get these out, these are the Thomas Wood track adapters. And I will go ahead and explain a little bit in regards to the Thomas & Friends Wood line for those that have not even heard of the Thomas & Friends Wood, toy line. Okay, so first I'm going to actually put the track out right here, then put the two engines onto the track, just to show how they work. Alright, so anyway, the Thomas Wood line was the replacement for the Thomas Wooden Railway line, which was around from 1992 to 2017, and in 2018, Mattel decided to, or Fisher-Price, because Fisher-Price is on the packaging. I'm not quite sure. Well, anyway, I think it's Mattel. That's generally what everyone in the Thomas the Tank Engine community is saying, anyway. But anyway, they decided to actually replace the Thomas Wooden Railway line with the Thomas & Friends Wood line. And what ended up happening is that we got a completely redesign of the trains. And there was quite a lot of complaints that people have had in regards to the Thomas Wood line. One of the most obvious things that I'm sure everybody knows about is that when the Thomas Wood trains first came out, they had exposed wood. They were not painted all the way. Now, you can see that they are now painted completely, just like the original Thomas Wooden Railway line. And I'm going to point out that this is the first time that I am ever seeing a Thomas Wood train model in person. That I have never seen a 2018 Thomas Wood model in person. I've only seen images of it, so this is the first time in which I've seen an actual Thomas Wood model in person. And there were quite a lot of complaints from both fans and parents alike, and they actually listened, and they have changed the way the trains look, with having the engines be completely painted instead of having the exposed wood, and that was a pretty good move that they had on their part. And the trains do look much better with the full paint on them. It does not look, all that cheap. And for me personally, I think that the Thomas Wood models that came out in 2018 kind of looked almost as though the trains had just gone through kind of a wood shop and had a lot of paint taken off of them. And that just did not look good, and it certainly was not the best suitable look for the trains. And, you know, with so many complaints, they had reconsidered and brought the fully painted trains out. Now, of course, there are still going to be complaints that people have about the Thomas Wood line, but at least they got the worst thing fixed. Alright, so now what I'm going to be doing is a little bit of a comparison to some of the older Thomas Wood and Railway trains compared to the new Thomas Wood line. So I'm going to take Rebecca out for a moment and focus on Rosie right here, and I happen to have the original Thomas Wood and Railway Rosie, which came out, I believe, in 2006, when she was first introduced into the series. And this is the updated version of Rosie, where she has a red coat of paint, which is what she had in the 21st season onwards. So, in the episode The Fastest Red Engine on Sodor, Rosie is shown having a red coat of paint. Although I think that they were originally going to explain why Rosie got this red coat of paint, but they ended up not carrying the story out. And putting these two side by side, the Thomas Wood Rosie is slightly shorter than the older Rosie right there. You will also notice that the Thomas Wood models do not have the actual domes on top of them, which is another thing that fans may complain about in comparison to you know, Thomas Wood and Railway, where they actually do have the domes. They just have the printing on the domes instead, rather than having them actually be out, because this is the result of, you know, trying to save money on working on these trains, which is another flaw or another issue that people have in regards to the Thomas Wood models. And another thing is that you see the raised roof on this Rosie right here. The Thomas Wood Rosie does not have that. It's, you know, it's not there. Now, on Rosie's side, the new Rosie, by the way, she has the letters NWR, which stands for the Northwestern Railway, and she has the number 37 on the side, which I believe is supposed to represent the fact that she was the 37th standard gauge engine to appear in the TV series. And, you know, they do work together. Both the Thomas Wood and Railway and the Thomas Wood models do connect. I'm sure some of you already know that. And they also both have the names underneath them, although the Wood models kind of have a little bit smaller detail right there. On the original older exposed wood models, you know, this part would be exposed wood. It was not painted originally, but now it is fully painted, and that is how it looks right there. Now, of course, taking a look at these two, I've noticed that this one kind of has a slightly smaller face than this one right here. But, you know, some people may find that to be, some people may be nitpicky about that and think that it's a flaw that this Rosie is slightly smaller, but, you know, if you're not so picky, which I'm not, by the way, you probably would not find an issue with, you know, the Thomas Wood Rosie. Next, we are going to be discussing about Rebecca, the yellow engine that was introduced in Season 22 of Thomas and Friends. She was introduced as one of the new members of the STEAM team, along with Nia, part of an attempt on getting more female members of the STEAM team rather than just having Emily, because we've only had one female character on the STEAM team for so long. The people that made the show decided it was time to actually have more female characters beyond the STEAM team, and, you know, they brought in Nia and Rebecca, and, you know, there's this right there. You know, that information. So anyway, I don't think that they actually have ever released Rebecca in the original Thomas Wood form with the exposed paint. I think this was one of the much later releases of, you know, the Thomas Wood line. And the thing here is that she is a tender engine, and something that they have done is actually make the tender engines a lot shorter in comparison. Here is the Thomas Wooden Railway Henry, and as you can see, he is much longer than Rebecca because, you know, she does not have the 8 wheels that she probably would have had in Thomas Wooden Railway form. They've decreased the size of the tender engines, where they all are this length now. So they pretty much are the length of a tank engine, even if they should not be. And, you know, they also have not put in the exposed coal like they've done right here. Though, of course, the older Thomas Wooden Railway tenders did not have the actual coal that you can actually feel. That was something that they added later down the line, but with the Thomas Wood line, they didn't put it in. They just decided to just have it be painted in. Right there. Alright. So Henry is a pretty long engine in comparison, but now how about an engine that is about the same length? Here is James. He is much shorter than Henry, and, well, even compared to James, Rebecca is still slightly shorter, because that's how the Thomas Wood models are in comparison. Just slightly a bit. I mean, in the TV series, she'd be about the same length as Gordon and Henry. But in this case, since this is a Thomas Wood model, she is much shorter, and that's the case with all of the tender engines. James is, of course, the same length in Thomas Wood form. Well, of course, he's that length anyway, because he's a much shorter engine than Gordon and Henry. But, you know, the Thomas Wood Gordon is this long. The Thomas Wood Flying Scotsman, well, he has 2 tenders, and I'm actually not sure if they've actually officially released Flying Scotsman in Thomas Wood form. I think that they were going to do that for 2018, but I think it got canceled for this, you know, the overhaul with getting the Thomas Wood models to be fully painted instead of be exposed. But I think they may be released at some point in 2019, because, you know, that was the whole point of why the summer 2018 line was canceled, to pretty much try to fix the issue with there being the exposed wood right there. So, once again, if you're not so nitpicky, you probably would not be bothered by how short the tender engines in the Thomas Wood line are compared to the Thomas Wooden Railway. It's personally not so much of an issue for me. I mean, it probably would be good if she was actually the same length as Henry, but this is good for what it is. And then as for the character herself, she was introduced in the episode Confusion Without Delay, which, as of the time of the recording of this video, you can't even find on YouTube, because anyone who's tried to upload that episode, it just gets blocked automatically, even though most of the other episodes don't get blocked, which is kind of odd when you think about it, that they would allow some episodes to be uploaded and others not so much. But if you have seen the TV episode on TV, if you're lucky enough to see it on TV, or if you can find some other website where the episode was uploaded, or even if it's actually been released to DVD by the time you're watching this. I have not heard of it being released to DVD as of the time of the recording of this video, but if it has been, you should know the whole story with Rebecca being concerned about being late which results in her leaving so early that, well, she causes confusion, but no delays. And she has the number 22 on the side of her cab, and that's supposed to represent the fact that she was introduced in the 22nd season, while NWR stands for Northwestern Railway, which is odd because she came from England. So why does she have Northwestern Railway on her tender? Did she get that after she arrived on Sodor? It wouldn't make sense for her to always have it unless it was very convenient for the railway she was going to go and work on. So that there is Rebecca, the newest member of the Steam team. Lastly, we're going to be taking a look at these adapters right here. Now, along with changing the length and the design of the trains in the Thomas Wood line, they also have changed how the track actually connects. And I will explain about that. You see, the original wooden railway tracks, as well as any other wooden railway lines, such as Brio or anything else, has these connection points where you just connect these pieces of track together. You just put this part into this hole right here, and that is how it connects. But the newer line has this new design where it's kind of a bit curved up this way and that way, and you just attach it like that to get the track to connect. And with this new connection feature, it would pretty much be impossible to connect the original Thomas Wooden Railway track or any other wooden railway track to the Thomas Wood track because of the different connecting points. But with these adapters, they make it possible for you to actually connect the two different types of track together. So that way, if you got the Thomas Wood train sets, and you also have the Thomas Wooden Railway or any other wooden railway track that you want to connect it to, you can use these connectors to help connect it together. Now, they came in the Thomas & Friends Wood adapter track packet. Well, this pack right here, I'm not quite sure if this is supposed to be some sort of thing that you could actually purchase. I don't see any any sort of number or shop number on it anywhere, so there's a possibility that they may have been giving these out for free somewhere. I'm not quite sure. I got this off of eBay, by the way, so I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure someone will tell me what this was all about. But you can also get these track adapters in some Thomas Wood sets and some other Thomas Wood destinations. So it's good that they actually thought about being able to adapt the or connect the track together. So they make these adapters to make it much more possible to connect them together. Overall, I think that the Thomas Wood line is improving ever since they did this major change to get the train models to be fully painted, and they look so much better this way as opposed to having the exposed wood. It's certainly a good improvement. Sure, there are still some things that fans may complain about in regards to their length or how they connect with the Thomas Wooden Railway train line, but regardless, there are some people out there that may not be so nitpicky about it, and, if you are interested in these new Thomas Wood models, you can go ahead and get them. Now, right now, as of the time of the recording of this video, Henry has not been released in Thomas Wood form, and neither has Edward, mostly due to the fact that they have been removed from the Steam team to allow Nia and Rebecca to join the group. the story for both of them is that they each wanted to move out and live in a new shed, with Edward moving to Wellsworth's shed with Philip, where he was staying while Tidmouth Shed was being repaired after James crashed into the back of the shed and caused the shed to need repairs and have some of the engines moved out. But then, as soon as Tidmouth Shed was repaired, Edward decided that he liked staying at Wellsworth, so he decided to stay there for good. And then Henry wanted to move to Vickerstown Sheds, and, you know, that's pretty much the whole story of why Edward and Henry have moved out of Tidmouth Sheds. It was pretty much a way to get Nia and Rebecca to join the group, and I know that some fans may dislike that change with Edward and Henry no longer being part of the STEAM team, but they're still characters on the show. They have not disappeared completely. You can still see them in episodes sometimes, so they're not gone for good. In fact, they're not even gone at all. They're still around. But right now, they have not been released in Thomas Wood form, but I am betting at some point in the future they will get Thomas Wood releases, although I'm not planning on purchasing Thomas Wood models of any characters that I've already got, well, except for Rosie, because she got a new coat of paint. I wanted to get a representation of Rosie to be more up-to-date compared to the older Rosie from 2006. But anyway, I'm just pointing that out for those that are, you know, haven't gotten the Thomas Wood and Railway line and are getting into the Thomas Wood line. I'm just pointing out that Edward and Henry have not been released in Thomas Wood form as of the time of the recording of this video, nor has there been any announcement that they have been or are going to be released in Thomas Wood form. But if you're watching this video in the future after they have been released in Thomas Wood form, well, that's great, but hasn't happened yet from the time this video was recorded. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I sure hope that this has given you some idea about the Thomas Wood toy line, if you have not known anything about it yet. And I will see you again next time.